It's my pleasure to open this meeting, and this is a very interesting topic which has been chosen and credited by our International Service Director Anuba Jain, and she's put in some effort into this along with all the other team members. Thank you, Anuba ji, and the team of International Service for doing this. I invite Dr. DG Jitendra Aneja ji. I think he's still not joining. I invite Rotary Saxon and the President of Rotary Club of Melbourne and Rotary Charlotte Doss, the Program Coordinator of Rotary Club of Melbourne. Welcome to you. Also would like to invite Meenakshi, who's a keynote speaker, and Dr. Jacquet. Welcome, ma'am. I would be glad if people be there for the whole meeting and enjoy the session here, which will be carried and moderated by Anuba ji. Anuba ji, you can take it up from here.
Thank you, sir.
Anuba, you can take it from here.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Namaskar to all. Am I audible? Yeah. So thank you, Sandeep ji. Namaskar to all. District Governor
Recording in progress.
Jitendra Aneja ji, District International Service Director Rotarian Rashmi Tangsali ji, Rotarian Shankar Shastri ji, past District Governor Samir Haryane ji, President E Club of Melbourne Rotarian Saxon Michelle, Program Coordinator from E Club of Melbourne Rotarian Charlotte Doss, Rotarians who have connected globally, and all the distinguished guests present here today. I am Rotarian Anuba Jain, Director International Service Rotary Bangalore Southwest. Welcomes you all. Under the umbrella of Rotary Bangalore Southwest, we International Service team, in joint collaboration with E Club of Melbourne, has organized an interactive panel discussion today on a very serious and a vital issue of suicide prevention and intervention strategies. I like to give a special emphasis that today about 32 Rotary clubs from different parts of Bangalore and Karnataka, India, have joined this meeting as joint partner clubs. I would like to thank all these clubs for their kind support and joining in a good number. I especially like to mention and extend a big thanks to our own District International Service Director, Rotarian Rashmi Tangsali ji. When I showed my interest to conduct a joint talk show on such an important subject, she was the one who not only supported me, but also connected me to Rotarian Madhumita Bishnu ji from the E Club of Melbourne. Then all of you distinguished guests present here, I wanted to tell you that Madhumita ji and Rashmi ji are the key persons to whom I got to know Program Coordinator Rotarian Charlotte Doss from the E Club of Melbourne. And before finalizing things, I did a series of communication with the President Rotarian Saxon Michelle and the Program Coordinator Rotarian Doss. Thank you so very much for your kind support, especially Rotarian Doss. Because of your prompt and timely replies, we are able to jointly conduct all this today. Thank you once again. Now, coming back to the subject of the evening, a recent increase in suicide rates globally have focused attention on suicide. As per the data of the World Health Organization, over 7 to 8 lakh people die due to suicide every year. It is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29 increase in the incidence of suicidal deaths in the last 5 decades. According to the World Health Organization in India, suicide is an emerging and serious public health issue. The estimated suicide-related death rate in India is over 1.5 lakh lives lost annually. As per the National Crime Record Bureau statistics, states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, MP and West Bengal have the highest percentage share of suicide ranging between 8 to 11% from the year 2018 to 2020. Although these are worrying figures themselves, there is a clear shift in the predominance of suicide among the elderly to younger people all over the world, and particularly in India. Despite numerous efforts and interventions, depression and suicide continue to afflict a sizable percentage of youth each year. Therefore, a key component to preventing teen depression and suicide is for professionals, parents, teachers, guardians, and other supportive adults to remain aware of such warning signs and risk factors and to appropriately intervene when necessary. Mental disorder, with suicide in particular, have increasingly gained special interest among the scientific community, essentially for the fact that aspects behind suicide entail many mental disorders, and prevention of those mental disorders would lead in itself to the prevention of suicide. However, 77% of all suicide occur in low and middle income countries and continue to be a serious problem in high income countries. Consumption of pesticides and hanging are among the most common methods of suicide globally. Every suicide is a tragedy that affects families, communities, and entire countries. It has long-lasting effect on the people left behind. There is a stigma around suicide that needs to be addressed and overcome, though it is a public health problem, but people try to avoid discussing this subject. Previous suicide attempts, mental health problem, harmful use of alcohol, use of drugs, job or financial loss, relationship breakdown, trauma or abuse, violence, conflict, and chronic pain or illness are some major factors for suicide. Unfortunately, suicide prevention is too often a low priority for government and policymakers. Suicide prevention needs to be prioritized on global public health and public policy agendas. Awareness of suicide as a public health concern must be raised by using a multidimensional approach that recognizes social, psychological, and cultural impacts. A national suicide prevention strategy is important because it indicates a government's clear commitment to tackling suicide in this regard. Recently, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has published a national suicide prevention strategy. It initiates steps to achieve a reduction in suicide mortality by 10% by the year 2030. According to WHO, when the UN guidelines were initially prepared, only Finland was known to have a government-supported systematic response to developing a national program for suicide prevention. Today, some 38 to 40 countries at all income level have adopted a national suicide prevention strategy, with some countries already developing or implementing further revision of their national strategy. It has also been found that through awareness, prevention strategy, and better counseling, suicide ratio can be controlled. Understanding this fact and to give more insight into this crucial issue, we have organized an open, candid conversation with our experienced panel. In this vein, first of all, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker of the program, Dr. Jackie Barnfield, Director, Clinical Services, Men's Line Organization, Australia, and Mrs. Meenakshi R. Nagwekar, Director, Sisters Living Works NGO. Welcome you both, ma'am. So first introducing our special guest, Dr. Jackie Barnfield. She is a registered nurse focusing her career in the area of mental health. Jackie has held various roles in the public health sector and is a passionate advocate for mental health and suicide prevention. She is committed to holistic care, ensuring services strive to meet the needs of consumers, their families, and the community. With over 10 years of experience as a director of nursing and operations, she specializes in innovation, strategy implementation, and supervision with a strong focus on quality and safety. Jackie has led or participated in research in mental health nursing. Her PhD study focused on the experiences of both nurse and consumers when faced with caring for or being the recipient of hospital admission following a suicide attempt. Jackie has been involved in the education and curricula content development of undergraduate and postgraduate nurses and delivered workplace, community education and training. She is a fellow of the Australian College of Mental Health Nurses and a member of the Australian College of Nursing. Now, in this vein, I would like to introduce our next speaker who will share her views on the subject later today is Mrs. Meenakshi R. Nagwekar, Director of Sisters Living Work. She has several years of experience in the education and social sectors. Through her NGO, Meenakshi ji devotedly working towards suicide prevention and mental health programs. Her organization, Sisters Living Work, is an NGO that has been engaged in suicide prevention awareness, raising community involvement, and educating people on warning signs and the roles of a first responder. Believing the philosophy that suicide is preventable, the NGO aims to build suicide-free India, where the organization is trying to aware each person and sensitized about the importance of mental health. Also, Sisters Living Work wants to develop and implement strategies to counter the societal stigma associated with suicidal behavior, mental health diagnosis, and treatment. So I request you all, the session would be very interesting. So be with us till the end to avail maximum benefit of the session. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Jekvi first to please give some insight about the subject. Ma'am, the stage is all yours.
I'm sorry to interrupt you here. Anubhaji, we have address from the president of Rotary Club of Melbourne. Would like to have Rotarian Saxon giving us an address for 2 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Then probably we can move to Meenakshi.
Sure, sir.
Rotarian Saxon, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for unmuting me. Thank you and welcome to everybody. I don't have much to say, but I wanted to thank the Rotary Club of Bangalore Southwest for hosting this event, and to our speakers, Men Akashi and Jackie. Thank you very much for presiding over this important topic. Thank you to the Director of International Service, Anuba Jain, and to our program coordinator, Charlotte, for putting this together. It's fantastic to see such an amazing attendance tonight for this discussion, and thank you for hosting Rotarian Sundeep. Thank you very much. This is a very important topic that is obviously something that it crosses borders. It does not stop at borders, and it affects everybody so very deeply in the community when something tragic like this happens. So I'm very interested to learn more, so I'll hand it over to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian Saxon. It's nice connecting with you. Anubhaji, you can please move ahead.
So thank you, President Saxon. Now, I would like Dr. Jekvi to please give some insight about the subject. Ma'am, please.
I just want to say thank you all for the invite as well. I'm very privileged to be part of this afternoon, or this evening. So this afternoon for you guys, this evening for us in Melbourne. So just a little bit of context to the organisation that I work for. Although it was identified that Men's Line Australia is one of the organisations, I work for an organisation called On the Line Australia, and we deliver the Men's Line Australia digital helpline. We also deliver a number of other national suicide helplines and some of the primary health network health lines. So we are a digital mental health service that is available 24/7 for Australians in need. I will talk more specifically about Men's Line and also the comparison between the context that men who call our lines and those who call our suicide helplines as well, because I think it actually is a very interesting aspect as to the differences of suicide risk when you think of gender as well. And it's very evident when you consider the reasons why men call Men's Line and why and how people use our suicide lines. So Men's Line is a helpline obviously available to men in Australia. As I said, it's 24/7 and we have counsellors who answer the calls to 80,000 plus calls a year to men. Primarily men. Sometimes we get women who will call asking for advice for their partners. But the main reason that men tend to call Men's Line is they've got concerns about their mental health. Now, that is distinct, very separate from when they call us related to having concerns about their suicide risk or wanting some safety planning around suicide prevention. So the top 3 reasons why men contact Men's Line are, as I said, mental health. The second one is really about relationships. And the third one is around loneliness. Now, interestingly, the top 3 items for reasons that men contact a helpline are 3 top reasons why people become suicidal, or they evidence that they become suicidal. For men calling us directly who may be suicidal, there is significantly decreased numbers. They're only 10% of our calls. Men would specify that they are suicidal, instead of actually saying that they're experiencing mental health concerns, that they're lonely, or that they're having relationship issues. What we do know is that I often say the single biggest risk factor, but there's 3 of them. But there are significant risk factors associated with what we would say loss. Loss is probably the largest component of reasons, rationale as to why people indicate they become suicidal. And loss is experienced in so many different ways. It could be a transitional change from a relationship. It could be a loss of a sense of someone's mental health and well-being. So it's often about how loss is interpreted. And it could be straight loss, grief and loss. They're often hand in hand. But loneliness is a significant risk factor. And again, it is associated with loss because there's a loss of connection with others. Now, the issue with loneliness and loss in that sense is that where do people go? Where do they go if they've got no one to talk to, or a lack of connectedness? I often like to use the analogy that sometimes you can be in a room full of people and actually not know anyone, and how does that make you feel? Often you are a little bit awkward, a little bit hesitant about going to approach someone. There's that sense of, is someone looking at me? What do I worry about? Is there anyone here that will actually understand me or who I am? So we often say that, we make assumptions about the way in which people connect and assume that if someone is surrounded by others, that they're connected. But in fact, connection or social connection is a personal thing. So as I said, if you're in a room with someone, you don't know anyone, you're not going to be connected. And that's very similar to people who are in often seem to be really robust relationships. They're very friendly, they're outgoing, they're engaged in very large social clubs, they could be sporting. But if they don't have a true connection with other people, then they're isolated and they're lonely. And there's no sense of connection to people. Now, with that becomes a significant risk factor. Who do you talk to if you've got no connection? Who do you talk to and where do you get your resources from? How do you speak to someone and say, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm lonely? Who do you speak to when you're worried about waking up at 2 a.m. And you just can't get back to sleep because you've got all these thoughts going through your mind? For me, although there's a whole range of stuff around that, loss and isolation is the single biggest risk factors for suicide. There are some cultural elements, obviously, to suicide, and suicide attempts are significant. The thing I really wanted to clarify as well is the distinction between suicide and self-harm. They are 2 very separate things. Someone who's self-harming doesn't necessarily have the intention to die. Someone who is making a suicide attempt, their intention is actually to die. But there are times when you have to think, is the suicide attempt a strategy to change someone's circumstances? So, one of the questions that we ask is, you've attempted suicide. Is it that you wanted to die, or is it that you want to change your circumstances? If your circumstances were different today, would you still want to, or tomorrow, would you still want to die? That's a significant and important factor to think on, because, again, we're social, connected human beings. There's a feeling that you have no other option other than wanting to kill yourself must be the most frightening, isolating, scary experience for anyone to go through. And that in itself is isolating. And there's a sense that no one really understands what they're going through. So when people do call our lines, there's that sense of relief. There's that sense of they're not being judged, that we're here to help. So we've got psychologists, we have nurses, we have counsellors, and we have social workers who work on our lines who are readily able to sit with people while they're going through that level of distress, where they can talk through whether it be a suicide safety plan or a safety plan in order to just hold themselves for the next 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long period of time, but for every 5 minutes that you've kept someone alive, it's another 5 minutes that they're alive. Gives them an opportunity to potentially put some other strategies into place, get help, or, you know, sometimes it's enough to actually suggest someone go and have a shower, get some hot water on you, just change what you're doing right now, change what your thinking is. That's our Men for Men's line. What's interesting is of our suicide lines, and we've got 2 nationally dedicated suicide lines, the proportion of people calling that is mainly women. And they're mainly calling for mental health reasons. And the second reason is that suicide prevention and safety planning. For women, it may be that men are calling for the same reason, but they're not overting the rationale as to why they're presenting. So it's interesting that given it's a straight suicide line, women are much greater proportion of callers. Men's line, again, as I said, I think there's probably a greater degree of suicide and suicide risk and focus of why people want to call, but men struggle to articulate what they're feeling, and it's a safety mechanism to not say that I'm thinking about wanting to kill myself, because again, it's one of those awful, lonely, isolating experiences that, you know, people think they're the only person that's ever experienced that. Sometimes, you know, we've got physical health issues, but relationships are a significant issue for both men and women, and it could be that they are in not great supportive relationships, or it could be that the relationships that they're unable to form relationships, and part of that could be because of you know, where they're at, where their thinking is, and how they present or connect to others. And you know, if you're experiencing some degree of personal distress, it obviously is going to put an impact on relationships, as well as significantly impacting on your ability to engage, and again reinforces that sense of loneliness and isolation. I might hold there and hand over back to, and I'm happy to take questions a little bit later on. Anubha?
Okay. So, yeah, that was so insightful, I would say. And I think raising community awareness and breaking down the taboo are important for countries to making progress in preventing suicide. What do you say?
The stuff about, you know, actually, I'm going to put it back to you guys. Think about, have you genuinely asked someone today how they really are? You know, we engage with people all day, every day. We talk to people all day, every day. But have you had a conversation with someone today that was, you thought, meaningful, that meant that you really checked in with someone to see, are you okay? How are you doing? You know, it's midweek. Yes, it is midweek. It's Wednesday. How are you? How's your week going? You know, communities and each of us have a really big responsibility in reducing the risk of suicide. And, you know, because part of that is that suicide risk and isolation, the loneliness. If someone, you know, you don't necessarily know, doesn't really have someone to connect with, who talks to them? Who goes out of their way to make an impact? But I think about it today, and I probably haven't really connected with anyone today, mainly because my computer crashed, and that was the end of my life as I knew it today. But you know, for other people, the ability to actually talk to someone and really connect is a life-preserving activity. That idea that we can approach someone and even say, look, I'm worried about you. I'm concerned that you seem a little bit off. And it's okay to actually identify that. You don't necessarily have to be an expert in suicide intervention. You don't have to necessarily be able to deliver a therapeutic intervention. It is actually about being present and connecting with someone and providing that sense of connection and knowing that you are willing to say, I'm here, I'll talk to you, I'm available, and I care. That's the real important thing. So, you know, there's lots of programs that the government's put into place. There's lots of money getting thrown at suicide prevention activities, but the cheapest and the best resources are ourselves and our willingness to actually reach out to others and say, I'm here. How can I help?
Yeah, that's true. Very true, ma'am. And I also like to add those suicide prevention efforts required coordination among multiple sectors, including health sector, education, labor, agriculture, law, defense, politics, and the media as well. The efforts must be integrated as no single approach alone can make an impact on an issue as complex as suicide. So thank you, ma'am. Now coming to our next speaker, Meenakshi ji. Now I'd like to call Meenakshi ji. Please, we want to know in detail the working of your organization. We all are inquisitive to know the idea behind the formation of your NGO with a very interesting name, Sisters Living Works, and how you help people suffering from trauma. How do you convert the stigma into hope? Please, Meenakshi ji, stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anubha. Thank you so much, and the whole group who has invited us, who has given Sisters Living Works an opportunity to come here and make people aware. What is the situation? I mean, about this subject in India today, and what are the work which is already done, and what is more that is required to be done. And I'll just talk with data. So NCRB is one point of data that we always refer to. So NCRB, that's called National Crime Record Bureau India. So that's a data which says that what is the number of suicide which is happening in the country. So if we look at the data, the number of suicide happened in the country in the year 2021 is 1,64,000. And a year before that, it says the number of death happened because of suicide is 1,53,052, which as compared to the death happened because of COVID is higher. I mean, so death happened due to COVID in the year 2020 is to 1,48,000 approximate, but the death which is reported because of suicide is 1,53,000. So that is the situation, that is the state of affair. I mean, that is where we stand, and that is why it is such a critical issue in India today that each one of us need to sensitize and do something and need to contribute toward this. Now, and not just this, I mean, we are seeing the increasing rate in suicide year after year, which is again 10%, which is increasing on an average of 10% every year. Now, suicide is a leading cause of death among women, again in India. If you see, again, in the age group of 15 to 49, there are many cultural and social factors like poverty, gender inequality, financial loss, relationship failure. These are the major issues which are contributing to the factors for suicide in India. In addition to that, lack of mental health care resources and the stigma associated with seeking mental health care creates hesitancy to seek suicide-related help. So that's the major concern which is there in India. Hence, suicide is more than a mental health concern today. And without proper identification and support, suicide would continue to be a serious public health problem that can have a lasting harmful effect on individuals, families, and communities overall. At Sisters Living Work, so when we initiated in the year 2013, this was initiated by Gayatri Datta, who is the founder of Sisters Living Work. So she founded this organization when she had lost her loved one to suicide. So she had lost her cousin. That is when she decided like she wanted to do something about not just sitting and grieving and just mull over it. She wanted to do something about the overall, and that's how she initiated Sisters Living Works, where she wanted to work toward suicide happening among women in India. But slowly, steadily, when we started moving on, it is not just for women; it is for everyone. Like what the work that we do. Now, at Sisters Living Work, what we do, so there are certain programs that we conduct. So our flagship program is conducting workshops. So we conduct suicide prevention and management workshops. Basically, is we conduct. This is for anyone and everyone that we come across. It can be for any community. It can be for schools. It can be for college-going people. It can be for office-going people. So basically, we conduct these workshops for our again, it is essential to increase awareness about suicide and equip these individuals to effectively identify and help someone in suicidal crisis. So, as ma'am very clear, she very correctly said that it's important that we look around and we identify, are the people around us, I mean, is there someone going through some sort of mental health problem, or is there someone who is feeling suicidal? So it's very important that we train people to identify those warning signs. I mean, is there someone who is really suffering? So the first first responder workshop that we conduct, it trains participants about the prevalence of suicide in India. It helps them to identify the warning signs of suicidal behavior and the strategies it teaches that they can use to respond effectively to a person who's expressing suicidal thoughts. So if I've identified someone who is showing me the warning signs, what should I do? How should I go about? So these workshops train them like what are the steps that I need to take. So the participants here, they learn like they learn how to define mental illness and understand the prevalence, identify stigma and related myths to mental health, recognize frequently encountered signs and symptoms or the behavioral health challenges. Like these are the behavioral. I mean, could be one of the issue. Understand what trauma-informed care means. I mean, when is the time that the person really needs needs to see a professional? When is the time the person, what are the immediate step that needs to be taken? So this is our flagship program where we conduct workshop. Our second program is we conduct support group for survivors of suicide. Survivors of suicide are the people who have lost their close loved one to suicide. So these people are again grieving. They don't know like how to deal with their with their loss. So basically, this is a closed door conversation that we do thrice in a month. So we meet such people and basically we exchange, like, so they tell their story, how they've been able to cope up. So this particular session is taken by a professional who is a little professional, who's from a psychology background, or maybe a counselor who handle this support group. So this is one program that we do, which is mainly for the survivors of suicide loss. The third program which we do is, this is a suicide prevention and management program for school counselors and schools educators. So if we'll see, like, India has lost more than 1.8 lakh students to suicide, according to National Crime Record Bureau, that says children and teens, they spend majority of their time in school. I mean, and if you see, the one who is mainly in touch with them are the teachers. And then we'll see most of the school, I mean, if you would say, they don't even have a basic counselor in place, I mean, in India today. Hence, it's important that we train those teachers, like how can they identify the student who is in a crisis, who's showing those warning signs, not just train them. Basically, how can they handle the student? How can they approach parents? And not just once they identify, how to get them to live a normal life, how to get them to live a normal life, bring them back to a normal life. So that's what the program is, a 16 hours program that we do with school teachers. The other program, there's one more program that we recently initiated. This is a first responder training program. So basically what we do is we go to different communities, we identify one person and we train that person to be a first responder. So he'll be trained like what are the warning signs and he'll be given the sources and the resources, like once he come across someone who's suicidal, what, so that he can help the person who's, once he come across a particular person. So this is the one program that we did. So recently we did this program with one of the college where we trained like 20 students as a first responder. So we trained them and we told them that now you go back to your community, look around and tell us, like, whom have you come across? What are the warning signs? What do you feel? We sent them back, and after 15 days we took feedback from them, and we were surprised when they came back. A lot of them said they were seeing warning signs in their mother. They were seeing these warning signs within their family. And someone said like they felt their mother is suicidal, someone felt their sister is suicidal. So that kind of program we have recently initiated. And once they identify, then we try getting them into a one-on-one counseling process. And even after that, we feel that the person needs us further medical help, we refer them to a psychiatrist, and we try to give those kind of help. Again, this is done very specifically with the low-income community that we have initiated. But as I said, there is a lot to do, because again, in India, one is people don't identify or don't accept that I am facing a mental health issue, or I am going through something which is not normal. People don't accept the way we have physical illness, the way we have physical health issue. Like if I have a headache or if I have a stomach, I go to doctor, I take pills and I feel better. Same, there could be a mental illness which also persists. I mean, which is also there and which needs to be taken care of. People don't agree to that, and there is so much of stigma around it. People don't want to open and talk. I mean, you'll be surprised to know, even today when I go to majority of school and college, when I say I want to do a workshop on suicide prevention, they request, can you like not talk about suicide, and can you reframe your workshop name as a mental health? So that's the scenario. I mean, so it's very important we get people to talk about, to discuss that this is important. Only once you discuss, you talk about, I think we can keep moving forward, and we can keep doing a lot of stuff that we achieve to do. Yes.
Very true, very true. And is it possible, Meenakshi ji, to predict suicide?
Pardon?
Is it possible to predict suicide? Why do people attempt suicide?
Okay, so again, the reason for suicide can be a single reason. It's a multidimensional problem that we say, because again, when we talk about suicide, this is a frame of mind the person is in, and if we go by data, the major reason why the suicide has happened in India is again a family problem. The family reasons are, the family problem are the one major reason. The second reason is the illness. Again, the third is basically, again, the people who contribute the most is one is a daily wage earner. They are the one who top the chart. The next come housewives. I mean, you will see the housewife is the one who comes second. And again, you can say these are again due to COVID. Again, if I say the daily wage earner, I mean, they have lost the job. Again, the financial crisis. So that was the one major reason which has led to maximum number of suicide which had happened. The second is like in the house, as I said, I mean, again, women here there's a still struggle. I mean, they're not being treated well. I mean, there is still a lot of struggle which women faces in India, be it rural or be it urban. It's still there. So that's the.
And we can say this, and we can say like many people in distress don't seek help or support on their own.
No, they don't, because they don't even acknowledge that there is something going wrong with them. So hence it's important that we train people around them, identify such people, and then get them to get help.
Right. So now, without wasting time, I want to invite Rotarian Dr. Padmakshi Lokesh, who is a doctor and a clinical psychologist from Rotary Bangalore, Nagarbhavi. She wants to share her thoughts about the subject. Rotarian Dr. Padmakshi Lokesh. Are you there, ma'am?
I don't think she's there, anybody.
Hello, madam. I'm unable to unmute.
Okay. Akshay, can you please?
Oh, yeah, I unmuted her, ma'am. I unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on, ma'am.
Padmakshi ji?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
one
you
second.
are. Yeah.
There's a, just give me a second.
I think meanwhile Sharbila wants to ask something. Is that for me?
Yeah, I'll take her question during question answer session.
Sure. Okay.
Hello.
Please, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. I changed this. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody present here. I would like to first tell thank you to Rotary Anuba Jain for giving me the opportunity. And there were wonderful speakers who spoke about suicide prevention and suicides happening in the globe. This was wonderful information. And I want to actually share a story. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. This happened just day before yesterday. I'd gone to one of the teachers training program, a faculty development program in heart of the city, Bangalore city. And it does not happen anywhere else, not in the rural area or something like that. It happened in the city center. I was talking to the teachers and then I was just telling them how to prevent suicides and talking about mental illness and all that stuff. Suddenly a teacher gets up and says, tell me any other option other than referring our student to a psychiatrist. We are ready to do anything else other than referring the child to a mental health therapist. I was a little surprised. I asked him why. Why not? He's like, no, ma'am. I cannot tell the parents that your child has having an issue and you have to take him or her to the psychiatrist because they will think, what if the world comes to know that they had gone to a mental health therapist and then in the future may get spoiled, nobody may marry them. I was like, what? This was exactly how it was told to me. A teacher tells me this was not told to me in a village. It was told to me by an international school teacher who's dealing with the high school and tells I cannot refer the child to a doctor. I mean, we are talking about there is lack of professionals. I would like to tell one thing: there is no lack of professionals. There are too many people working in the field of clinical psychology, psychiatry, psychosocial work, and a lot of things. And then it's not lack of professionals. It is not the lack of knowledge. I ask everybody, what happened? Didn't all the 8 lakh people who committed suicides across the globe the previous year, didn't they watch any motivational videos on YouTube? I'm sure they must have. So if that did not motivate them to survive, what else will motivate them to survive? I would like to tell everybody, if somebody wants to survive, it is not the external motivation which is very, very important. It's the motivation from within. I have to do something. I have to survive. But this is not happening for many reasons. Because even today, people think telling your innermost fears and communicating your emotions is actually a sign of weakness. Let us tell the world, if you're telling somebody you're feeling bad, if telling somebody you're feeling sad, you're feeling low, that is not a sign of weakness. It is something you're trying to communicate. It's always told a man cannot cry. Don't cry. A man should not be crying and all that stuff. So when this is told to boys, and then when they're in their growing up phases, they're so very scared. Oh my God, I should not be crying in front of somebody. I shouldn't be telling my problems to somebody. There where the issue begins. We actually think issue ends there. Actually, issues begin then. Please tell your children to openly communicate to anybody, even it's the friend, the teacher, the parents. That's very, very important. And then madam just asked a question, can we prevent suicides? Definitely we can prevent suicides. And is it a disorder, mental disorder? Yes, it is a mental health disorder. Post pandemic, we were all speaking about corona. Trust me, this is going to be the biggest pandemic across the globe once corona is over. That's called the mental health pandemic. And I want to give you statistics. The previous year, 20,000 students, not one or two. In just a country like India, 20,000 students have committed suicide. Till the previous year, we all thought it is due to exam failures, children commit suicide. But the previous year, due to Corona, nobody attended classes and everybody were promoted to the higher classes. So this is the most alarming signal to the world that the students did not commit suicide because they failed in the examination. It was because of lack of emotions and lack of communication and the lack of belonging, which actually made them commit suicide. So this is something I want to tell everybody. I have just few important points. What do's and don'ts. First and foremost thing, please let us try to inculcate spiritualistic learning in our homes itself. So into the child's life at a very early age. We should tell them how important life is. There is nothing larger than life. There is nothing bigger than life. So surviving itself is the most successful thing in the world. There are so many children who ask me, tell me easy tips. Tell me simple tips to become successful. I always tell everybody, there is nothing very easy. You have to go to the top. You have to climb the ladder, and that's the most difficult thing. And the most easiest thing you can do is just to stick there and be there. That's all. If I am alive tomorrow morning, I'm one of the most successful person. This is what I tell every child. So please tell your children, taking 90% is not not everything in life. So that's very important. Let's try to inculcate holistic approaches in our lives or in the child's life at a very, very early ages. And then the parents should understand one thing. Your child is not a marks vending machine. We have to understand that. My child, oh my God, what happens to my child if he doesn't take 90%? What happens if he doesn't take 95%? No, you have to tell them, even if you don't take the 95%, still life has to go on. There is something beyond it. There are so many parents who communicate this to the child. Let's not do that. Even in schools and at homes and anywhere in society, taking marks is not the only thing in life. Please make them. Also important is make the child play physical activities, any games, boys or girls, let them do a lot of physical activities and play outside, not on temple run on the mobile phone. They have to literally walk to the temple to actually see a beautiful life. That's what I tell people. So make them play outside. Once they're playing games outside, that's when they realize winning and losing is a part of life. So when they lose something in life, they don't think they've lost everything, and then they think about suicide. So they should understand winning and losing is all part of life. But nowadays in this children and now the current generation, they've not seen this concept at all of losing. So they've just lost it. They suddenly feel, oh, I should end my life. One of my doctor, my friend, a very good dear friend of mine, her daughter tells this to me. She says, I've got very less marks in my examinations. I want to commit suicide. I said, why? What happened? You've passed. She says, no. How will I show my face to anybody? A child of 22 years just says this, how will I show my face to anybody just because she scored 5% lesser than the thought she had? So this we have to tell. There is something bigger than life. Every time we are supposed to constantly tell as society too. When somebody comes to you, you shouldn't, oh, you're in 10th standard? Oh my God, that's the end of life. Second PUC, oh, you have a lot of things to do. Instead of telling all these things and inculcating fear factors in your children, you're supposed to positively motivate them. Oh, what it is, second PUC, just 10th standard, 11th standard, or whatever it is, they are just examinations. Just go with it, live a life. That's very, very important. This is something we have to do. And then as parents, please speak positively of your child. When there are parents who tell, oh, I couldn't become a doctor, I couldn't dance, I couldn't sing, so you're supposed to learn all these things. Please make sure your children are like candles to be lit, not garbages to be filled with your own emotions, that I could not do something, you're going to do that and fulfill my desires. Please don't do that. By that, the child gets into a lot of fear factor and anxiety. Oh my God, what if I'm not able to fulfill the needs of my parents? I will be called as a failed person. So let's not develop these kind of fear factors in the children and make them feel they're not useful, they're worthless. So we are here to make them feel whatever it is, they're totally worthful in life. That is something which is very, very important. And then don't over pamper your child, or even in a relationship, don't over pamper the other person in the relationship. And then also don't criticize them so much. that they feel they're worthless, because both extremities can cause negative feelings in the other person as well as the children too. When you're over pampering and suddenly tell a no, they cannot accept it and they feel, okay, you don't love me anymore. I am not being loved. These are the thought process which get developed in them. So you're constantly supposed to tell your child, you will get this only if such particular type of behaviors are happening. So that's when they understand, okay, fine, I need to earn a few things for that. So this is what is very, very important. If you have to prevent suicides, please, let's talk about it. It is not that you're going to tell your child, oh, don't talk about it, don't tell this to anybody. Nothing. You have some emotions deep down in your mind and you're unable to express, come out and tell it to me, is what the encouraging environment the parents have to develop in their houses, so the child comes and talks to you, or even the adult comes and talks to you, or in a relationship also they talk to you. And then don't be always paranoid, and don't put your fear factors on the opposite person, because they feel worthless and helpless and feel maybe, oh, I am not doing anything, so that the relationship has gone for a full toss and this is the end of life. So basically, my dear viewers who are watching this program across the globe, wherever you are, you're such wonderful. If you can talk about what happens after discharge from hospital too, definitely. You've been such wonderful audience. I request all of you, let us pledge to become positive speaker in some one person's life at least once in a week, so that we can prevent suicides in very, very huge rates. Because as madam already mentioned, 1.5 lakh committed suicide in India. I'm just looking at the larger amount. It was 8.5 lakh people who committed suicides across the globe. The numbers are very, very high. We just spoke so much about some other diseases. In 2025, suicides is going to be the #1 reason for death across the globe. So the most important thing is working towards the prevention of this. So for that, we have to become aware about a lot of suicide prevention programs which are happening around us, and make sure we attend such things, and also make sure we promote
Very
such
true,
activities.
Padmakshi ji. Thank
That's
you.
very
Thank you so
important.
much for your kind words and very insightful messages you have delivered. Thank you so much. And are both the speakers, they want to share something? Yes, Dr. Jakwi.
Thank you. I just wanted to actually challenge what Padmakshi said about suicide's a significant mental health issue. Mental health and suicide are actually separate things. That, in fact, people can have and bad mental health and be suicidal. It's really better to describe it as a social determinant. And if you think about another analogy, if you have a cup, you might hold a cup in your hand and you put a bug in the cup, and you look inside that cup and think, what is it that bug can see? They're completely encapsulated by the cup, and the only thing that they can see above is directly straight above them. Now, if you put a person in that same sort of situation, the thing is, the people are actually encapsulated by the problems that that are around them. The things that they see are their problems. So it could be financial, social, emotional, physical, but it's wrapped around. And the only thing that they see is a different perspective, a different view. And that different view or a different perspective sometimes leads to suicide, because it's a different idea. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be something different to what they're already wrapped around in. And certainly talking about suicide gives or provides a different perspective. If people are brave enough to have a conversation with someone who they think might be suicidal, it's really important that you are willing to actually ask someone if they're suicidal, and ask them openly and honestly as well. Don't hide around don't shy away from using the word. It's really important that people know that you are willing to talk to them about suicide. And as well as doing that, you're conveying a message that even if they're not suicidal, you're willing to talk to them if they are at risk down the track. But it is really important that you do actually have an open, frank conversation with people if you are concerned. And it's okay to say, are you suicidal? You will not put the thoughts of suicide into someone's head by asking it. And it's a really big thing to think about, because we're going to be mindful about perceptions and fear, and that what Manishka said earlier about going to a school and saying to the students, the school said, no, we don't want you to talk about suicide, we want to talk about mental health. There's such a fear and a perspective that talking about suicide makes people want to do it. Evidence is out there. It doesn't exist. It's as significant as severe as saying, you've now asked me if I'm going to go home and chop off my left arm with a chainsaw. Completely irrational, unless, of course, you're already thinking about doing it.
Yeah, very true, very true. We need open discussion regarding the subject. Yes, very true. Yes, Meenakshi ji, you need to, yes.
Yeah.
Please.
So the very first thing I want to bring on this table is like, first of all, we all need to bring this to our practice, decriminalize, even the law has decriminalized suicide. So terming word committed with suicide is, again, we all need to abstain from using word committed. So the way we put it across should be someone died by suicide instead of saying committed, because when we use term committed, it gets associated with something which is not correct, not wrong. I mean, it looks like a criminal offense. So the right way to put across is someone died by suicide. That's number one. Even our law in India has the 2017 the Indian Penal Code has also decriminalized. So it is no more. It is so till now what used to happen, like if someone is making an attempt, there would be a police complaint, and that's why people don't want to come up, because it is seen as a criminal offense. That's why people don't want to come up and talk about, because again there would be police coming in, there will be so many inquiries, and that's why people don't want to talk about. The other thing which is still exists, and I have an issue with, suicide still comes under NCRB, which is National Crime Record Bureau of India, which shouldn't be the case. I mean, it is no more a crime. It's a mental state where the person is dealing with, and hence such an incident happens. So that's very, very important. And I think there's one very important thing I forgot to mention about, like, what should be the goals? I mean, when I'm talking about suicide awareness, and prevention program, what should be our goal? So there are, like, very clearly, there are 6 goals that I should be looking at for our community overall. The number one goal should be the breaking the silence surrounding suicide. So we should encourage people to talk about, like, we should be discussing, like, are you feeling suicidal? I mean, it's as easy the way I said it. I mean, you should be asking if you feel someone is not okay today. Sharing the facts about suicide, it's very important that the community get to know that, one thing is, even suicide don't even get reported easily in our country today. I mean, people say, like, even if, as I said, that the reported number by 1,53,000, I mean, just imagine the cases which were not even reported. So it's important that we should make people comfortable where they can easily report and they can talk about suicide. Improve help seeking and access to care by reducing fear, myth, stigma about suicide. It's very important that we break those myths, and we say that, because there are a lot of myths which, like, for example, someone says suicide will happen if it has to happen, and we can't do anything about it. So that's the myth. That's not the case. I mean, a lot can be done, and yes, suicide is one form of death which is preventable, and a lot can be done there. So again, breaking those myths, talking to people, what are the myths around suicide and things like that. Develop suicidal risk recognition skills in the community. As I said, like, we have come with a program where we are training first responders. We are trying to do teachers training programs. So we need more such programs. Like, as I said, we conduct workshops. We need to reach out to people. I mean, as I said, I mean, the school, I mean, in depth, I mean, wherever we could, we need to reach out to as many population we could, and educate them about the suicide. That train people to help individuals. Again, we need to train, I mean, each one of us, like, how to identify someone who is suffering this. That's very, very important. Get the community involved in awareness generation and prevent suicide. So it's not just one person's job, and that one person should be training the other, and that's how the community will keep training everyone, and that's how people would be able to help each other. So that is very, very important.
As I said, it's an effort required, coordination among multiple sectors, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. So Rotarian Dawes, you like to share something? Akshay, can you? Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
So more for me, I actually work in the mental health sector as well, but with young people, so 15 to 25. But what I was more wanting was for our subject experts, can you give some basic tips or suggestions for how we can help destigmatize this in our society and have those open conversations with people and normalize talking about mental health.
Your question with Meenakshi ji?
Or Jackie, either. I'm happy. I'd love to hear from anyone who was willing to.
I might jump in then, Charlotte. I bought a shirt a little while ago, and across the back of it says, it's the most hilarious shirt you can possibly imagine, but it says, "This is a conversation starter." And I've worn it to work. I've worn it to a number of places, and the intention is to wear it to work. And it was originally designed, the whole shirt, the premise is to wear it on building sites for men, because you look at it and you go, geez, that's really bright, or that's a really odd looking shirt. They've got really different designs now, but it still has across the back, this is a conversation starter. And it does, because people raise it and they go, geez, that shirt's really bright. And you go, I wear it because I'm prepared to talk to people about mental health, well-being, suicide. And it's a way of actually starting or initiating a conversation that, completely left field, because it's just about weaving a conversation into mental health and well-being and suicide prevention into everyday conversation, just taking the opportunity where it lies, where you possibly can. And again, knowing and telling people that you're not afraid to talk about suicide. It's really important with our youth particularly, that they know that they're not going to be ostracised for wanting to talk to someone, and it's really important that they know that there's someone willing to listen. That's the really key part is that people need to know that there is someone who's not going to judge them. That again, it's part of that stigma, that fear that people are going to see me as other, or potentially, and back to the old days of putting me in a mental health unit and locking me up and giving me or even a diagnosis and judging me for who I'm a diagnosis rather than me as a person. And, there are many people who are suicidal that never attempt suicide. They're suicidal ideators, and that's what they live with, and they live with it every day. And there's a degree of bravery around that. And I think what we need to do is actually recognise the bravery that people who are suicidal are actually experiencing, because they're still alive. While they're still suicidal, they're still alive, and you've got opportunity to make a big difference. But it's really, again, taking the opportunity to talk to as many people as you possibly can. Holding events like this makes a difference too, and being able to have conversations with your broader social network, your broader social community. I know all of my husband's friends, for example, know that if they're in a room with me, I will talk about suicide for it's just one of the topics of conversation that crops up, and they know that. And some of them will avoid, but at the same time, they will absolutely come and make tracks of having a conversation, because nothing's off limits. It's a safe space.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Dr.
it's
Jackie.
yeah.
I hope.
So I just want to
your
add on
question-
one thing. Yeah, I just want to add on one thing. It's very important, when in deciding to educate, aware others, it's basically very important that you first of all educate and make yourself aware, what the signs would be, and be the person, whom can be trusted. So it's very important that when you train someone, and you should be the one who can be trusted by someone, by your community, or someone who is maybe not feeling well. So it's very, very important that, as I said, educating people, making people aware about the warning signs, and awareness is very, very, education and awareness, as I said, is very, very important, is a key factor for each and everyone. It should be taught in the school, it should be taught everywhere. Yeah.
I think your question has been answered, Dos.
Yes, thank you, ladies. I really appreciate that. I think it's just good to be mindful of those little things we can do to make a difference and destigmatize it and make someone feel safe to hopefully open up and be able to help themselves.
One more Rotarian, Suparna Ghoshal is there. She wants to ask something or want to share her views. Rotarian Suparna. Akshay, can you unmute her?
I'm trying to, ma'am. She has to respond.
Okay, right, no problem. I'd like to mention PDG Rajendra Rai sir is here with us. Thank you, sir, for joining. Thank you, sir. Can you unmute him, please, Akshay? PDG Rajendra Rai sir.
Sir, you can unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We learned quite a lot by attending this. I'd also like to inform you that we have formed an action group for of the Rotarians for mental illness to support people who have been, support and help those who have been, those who require such a support. So this action group was launched about 10 days back, and those who are interested could probably contact me or Dr. Sharmila from Ajay Rajeshwari Nagar.
Sure. Right.
Also, one of our clubs called Midtown Club has got an app called eMansi. Basically, they use the ASHA workers to identify people who require this support, those who suffer from mental illness in the rural parts of our state. And then that they report to NIMANS and other and the doctors to give them to provide the consultation.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for organizing this. It's a good job done.
Thank you. Any other question from any of the Rotarian here? So, before proposing a vote of thanks, I would like to call Rotarian Rashmi Tangsali ji, who wants to do a quick announcement regarding ICGF. Rashmi ji.
Super. Very educated.
Rashmi ji. Tejaswini ji is there. She wants to ask something, I think.
Hi, very good topic here. I just have one question in the chat box where I have personally come across men who are in the early 40s committing suicide. Why is that on the raise?
Your question is with speaker? Dr. Jacqui or Meenakshi?
Can you check the chat box, please?
Yes.
It's one of those.
Men have been committing suicide. She's asking.
It's an unusual thing that it's for a long time. It's been a regular occurrence for men in that age group to be the highest perpetrators of perpetrators is the wrong use of word. The people who are dying by suicide. Now, partly there isn't really a great deal of reason to explain that, other than men who are in that age group are typically choosing more lethal means to die. They tend to have had a period of time to which they have thought about how they're going to do it, and they place themselves in high-risk situations. So often it's associated with being intoxicated and planning, and then will actually utilise very lethal means. So the deaths by suicide is much higher. Their attempts is actually a lot lower. They tend to die more frequently as a result, because it's a one-off. So the interventions that really need to occur earlier on is to have the conversations with people, checking in with them before they get to the point of attempting suicide when they are in that early 40s age group, because of the lethality, potential risk associated with dying.
Yes. So, one thing which is observed, I mean, if I look at from an Indian mentality, I mean, though, if you see the number of suicide among men has been higher than women. And again, the ratio of men is again higher than women in India. But one, I would say that a woman, I mean, she may she may say a lot of time that if this doesn't work, I mean, I may choose to die by suicide. So a woman may say, and probably she may, by saying so many times, the chances of she feeling better is higher. But a men, I mean, if you're on the other side, I mean, we have seen the chances of they acting on it is very high. I mean, so if they are not feeling well, and if there is something gone wrong, the chances of they acting on it is very, very high. So that could be one of the reason. I mean, you may see that the early 40s men have been seeing that one who decide on such a harsh thing very, very easily or very promptly. I would say.
Okay, great. So now,
still again, as I said, like again, the number of deaths reported among housewives is again higher in women. So that's is again one piece that we need to really look at. Why so many housewives? The number of women that are being reported which have died by suicide, more than 50% are housewives. So that's again one critical data we really need to look at. And the other thing is these women are not from the rural area. These women are, we'll see, many of them are educated, independent, and these are the kind of women who have decided to die by suicide. So that's an again concerning.
okay, thank you, Meenakshi ji and Jackie. Akshay, please unmute Rashmi ji.
Yes, Anuba, I'm unmuted and I'm here.
Okay, yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Anuba, for this insightful session. What a session. It has gone very well. And hearing to Rotarian Jackie, Meenakshi, and Padmakshi has been opened a lot of doors to thinking and also to more of action. I bring greetings to you from our DG Jitendra Aneja, and it's with a lot of pleasure that I invite all Rotarians of 3190 to the upcoming ICGF Prashanti, which is on the international services. So this will be conducted on the 27th of November. That's a Sunday. So please be there and by 9:30 and onwards. And the great speakers, entertainment, and lip smacking lunch menu is on for everyone. So please do come and enjoy the fellowship and the friendship of Rotary and whatever Rotary stands for. We are all here because of that. So please be there. Thank you. Hope to see you all at the ICGF. Thank you, Anuba.
My pleasure, Rashmi ji. Now, to propose vote of thanks, I would like to invite Dr.
Sharmila was raising her hand, I think.
Yeah, I know, but
just check it out with her.
Akshay, can you unmute her?
Ma'am, I'm trying to. She has to respond, ma'am.
Yeah. So she's not responding.
Yeah, she's responding now.
Thank you so much, Anuba.
Yeah.
So this is regarding, we spoke about suicidal, laborers, children, housewives, middlemen, persistently about this and several-fold higher suicidal rate even than women. These are the middlemen. The question was why middlemen commit suicide. Men use more violent immediately method of suicidal. But there are so more risk factors on this: gender, alcohol abuse, and drugs. We are talking, but who will bell the cat? We, me, you, everybody in society. We have to take some initiative at home, parents, outside, and also we need a lot of support to work this in a community groups to come out of this taboo. We need to support each other and talk to the next door what's happening. At least we should have some positive strokes for them so that they come back to us and talk to us. Somewhere we also need support, in society, to forward and to approach. We can't stop suicidal. The rate, I know we have been giving statistically very big numbers. It's not in our hands ultimately. At least we can try and succeed with the mental health groups, at least 10% average in Bangalore. The population is crore or more. But still 10%, at least 10 lakhs is not a small thing, and it's a great blessing. How are you going to do this? It's a great challenge. So I wish the mental health group all the best. Let's join our hands together and see how the community can work, and progress by expanding our horizons, ecosystems in handling these things. And thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Sharmila ji, and very well said. Many people in distress don't seek help or support on their own. We need to identify such people at risk in the greatest need and connect them to care and support. So with these lines, I want to sign off. And in the end, I would like to invite Rotarian Dr. Arun Atkoli ji to propose a vote of thanks. Rotarian Atkoli sir is the practicing eye surgeon from Bangalore and medical director Sunetra Eye Hospital, past president of RBSW and